It's one thing Luther said about Haiti. He said, even in the midst of all the violence, he said our church numbers went up, not down. He said people said they weren't going to stop worshiping just because it was dangerous to go there. And he has. He's so far this year, I think he's up to almost 300 baptisms. And a whole bunch of people back, like 175 people have returned in all this violence that had fallen away. They get a lot of baptism, they also get a lot of falling away. So what Bible verse do we see when we look at Israel fighting with the Palestinians? Actually, he's fighting with Hamas, but anyway. What Bible verse does that remind us to tell us that God told the truth?
It's in Genesis.
Huh?
It's in Genesis.
Yep. It's regarding Ishmael. You don't have to tell me the chapter and verse. Tell me what it says. Not in the King James Version, or I'll have to wash your mouth out with soap. What does it say? You guys remember?
That Ishmael was going to be as a wild donkey, and it would always cause difficulty to Isaac.
He will always cause
Abraham,
problems.
Isaac's
And that's where we're at today.
Descendants.
Yeah. Steve.
Well, and I think, didn't he put a mark on him so that he wouldn't be killed?
No, that was Cain.
Oh,
He
okay.
put a mark on Cain. We don't know what that is. But, yeah. It said he marked Cain so that the people of the world would not kill him when he wandered. But no, Ishmael, he just said, he'll be like a wild donkey. He'll always bother Israel. And he still does to this day. They're surrounded by Ishmael.
Well, I think that's the other thing is when we decide to take the plans in our own hands rather than leaving them to God, this is what we get. And it can be rather quick response from God, or it can be centuries upon centuries later.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we can't assume that God's going to work in our timelines. You know, we're now 4,000, 5,000 years after he made that remark, and it's still true today, coming true. All right, so here's the situation, kind of overview. Joseph spends 2 years in prison. God gives him favor in the eyes of the warden, and so for all that was done there, Genesis 39:22, he makes Joseph the chief trustee, I guess you would say. He's in charge of everything in the prison under the jailer. So he's still a prisoner, but obviously life's not too bad for him in this. Because remember, these are the white-collar criminals. This was the king's jail. And so he takes over that, or the Pharaoh's jail. Ultimately, he does interprets a dream for the Pharaoh's cupbearer, which winds up leading him to do one for Pharaoh. He does a couple others and gets forgotten for several years. Then he comes back, he does this. So he interprets a dream for Pharaoh. The dream said what, basically? What was the basic interpretation, Julie?
There would be 7 years of good crops and then a famine.
Right. Yeah, 7 years of famine. And so he told him, God says, prepare. And so how does Pharaoh decide he's going to prepare?
He puts Joseph in charge of everything.
He says he's in charge of every single thing in this. There's nobody higher than him but me. And so he does. In fact, if there's some great documentaries have been on over the years, but one of them I watched a few years ago, so I don't remember what it's called, but they talk about in the lower regions of the Nile there and all, where they believe the Israelites lived. What's the name of the town? Goshen. Yeah, you would remember that.
I would.
The girl from Goshen, Indiana. But yeah, in the land of Goshen, and they say that along the river Nile, in several strategic locations, they have found the diggings of huge warehouses, like underground grain bins. And it would be good underground because it keeps the heat off it during the famine and the lack of moisture and stuff. So they have found huge workings. Well, of course, archaeologists say, we don't know exactly what these were. We know what they were. because they still contain grain, some of them. A little bit of grain here and there. So anyway, he puts Joseph in charge, getting ready. Famine strikes, and so everything goes full circle when what happens? His brothers show up asking to buy food. And Joseph runs out and hugs them all, and no. What's he do? He's a little bit of a jerk to them, isn't he? On purpose. Not really payback. He's making a point. But yeah, he says, okay, you've come, and Joseph devises several tests, kind of wanting to find out about his dad and about his little brother and all those things. And he says, I tell you what, bring your little brother to me, and I'll give you the stuff. And then he says, I'm going to keep him. And so Judah winds up saying, no, take me instead, not my brother, I'll stay. And then he pulls one last little stunt to get their father there. What does he do with the money that they paid for food?
Put it back in the sack.
Stucks in their money back. So they get down the road a day or two and they reach in to get some grain and they find all their money, which they immediately believe what's going to happen.
They're gonna get arrested for thieving.
Yeah, they're going to think we stole the money. They have no clue who Joseph is at this point. I've always, as a kid, I'm like, how do you not recognize your brother? But I had a really good teacher at Lipscomb that said, most likely, he was dressed as an Egyptian. He was wearing the distinctive haircut of an Egyptian, maybe the beard of an Egyptian.
They were clean shaven.
I thought they had those little chin beards.
Little makeup.
But
Yeah,
anyway,
eyeliner.
yeah, the eyeliner. That's at least that's what the movies say. But anyway, yeah. So
And he pretended he didn't know their language.
exactly. Well, in the meantime, he's sitting back, listening. I did that one day we had our school bus truck from the orphanage, and we're going along, and Lukener stops the truck because there are a bunch of school kids walking. It was a really hot day. And he says, let's give them a ride. I said, okay. So they get in the back with me, and they start talking, making fun of the white guy, with a physical description of the white guy. But they're sitting there, and they're laughing, and the one says, we get to keep our bus money. We can, and they're talking about, we buy some ice cream in the village. And we're going to keep our money. And so when we stop there, the one looks at me in English and says, thank you very much. And I said, thank you. Thank you. Merci. Or s'il vous plaît. Yeah, s'il vous plaît. And they all just start dying laughing because it's 5 good to ride the bus. And so I said, give me 5 good. And they all start dying laughing, and I said, I speak your language. And of course, then they just all fell out, and they all started hugging me and laughing. They still didn't give me the money. But, and that's kind of what Joseph's doing. He's making fun of them by listening and not, telling them what's going on. So anyway, let's read the 1 to 15. Would anybody like to read for me? Okay, I'll go ahead.
Where are we at?
Genesis 45, 1 to 15. It's that first book in the Bible.
Yeah, I know where it's at. Alright.
Yeah, RCC Race to Find Chapters. Genesis ought to be the easy one, right next to Revelation. And Psalm. That's always
All
easy
right.
one to find.
First Hezekiah.
Then Joseph could not control himself before all those who stood by him, and he cried, make everyone go out from me. So no one stayed with him when Joseph made himself known to his brothers. And he wept aloud so that the Egyptians heard it, and the household of Pharaoh heard it. And Joseph said to his brothers, I am Joseph. Is my father still alive? But his brothers could not answer him, for they were dismayed at his presence. So Joseph said to his brothers, come near to me, please. And they came near, and he said, I am your brother Joseph, whom you sold into Egypt. Now do not be distressed or angry with yourselves, because you sold me here. For God sent me before you to preserve life.
Okay, hang on a second. Look at what he's sold into slavery by his brothers. He rises up, then he is framed for rape, and then he is raised up again, thrown in prison, raised up again, thrown back into prison, ignored in prison, raised up. And this all these up and downs over a period of however many years, at least 7, 9, 10, probably 15 years or more. He says, don't be upset. God did this so that I could save lives. Do we ever look at it that way? I don't need to be upset about this little problem or that problem because God sent me to do something good with this.
I think last week you were saying, Joseph was kind of a spoiled little brat. Had got his way. Heard something interesting this morning on the radio, David Jeremiah. He said that getting thrown in the pit, then getting falsely accused, spending all that time in prison, toughened him up.
Sure.
And made him stronger. Made him,
God shaped him to be the man he wanted him to be, is what he did.
yeah. I thought that was interesting.
If you think about like a blacksmith, he has to hurt the metal. He has to reshape it. At the molecular level, that's what the fire does, and then he reshapes it with a hammer to make something useful in the end.
What's interesting is that Joseph, it's Joseph's choice. He could either become bitter about it and get upset, or he could let it soften him. And so that is your choice in your life as things happen to you.
Yeah, it's how you look at it. Go ahead and start at 6 now.
Well, the famine has been in these lands for 2 years, and there are yet 5 years in which there will be neither plowing nor harvest. And God sent me before you to preserve for you a remnant on earth, keep alive for you many survivors. So it is not for you who sent me here, but God. He has made me a father to Pharaoh, a lord of all his house, and a ruler over all of Egypt. Hurry up, go to my father and say to him, thus says your son Joseph, God has made me lord of all Egypt. Come down to me, do not tarry. You shall dwell in the land of Goshen, and you shall be near me, you and your children and your children's children, and your flocks and your herds, and all that you have. And there I will provide for you, yet for 5 years of famine to come, so that you and your household and all that you have do not come to poverty. Now, your eyes see, and the eyes of my brother Benjamin see, that is my mouth that speaks for you. But you must tell my father of all my honor in Egypt and all you have seen. Hurry and bring my father down here. And he fell upon his brother Benjamin's neck and wept. And Benjamin wept on his neck. He kissed all his brothers and wept upon them. And after that his brothers talked with him.
And the brothers go skipping home to Dad, and then what happens? They have to tell Dad what they've done. Or they have to some extent. Yeah, it's not all roses just because Joseph said everything's good. They still have to go tell their dad who all these years thought he lost his favorite son. All right, so, by the way, down in near the land of Goshen is a pyramid. It's a very small one. But there's a pyramid there. Archaeologists have dug it out, cleaned it out, and in it is there's no bones, there's no mummy, but there is a very high throne. And sitting on that throne is a statue of a man with Hebrew features wearing a multicolored greatcoat. That is the only non-Pharaoh that we know that received that sort of honor. And even archaeologists have said, maybe it's Joseph, which is about as good as we get from those guys sometimes. But it appears to be Joseph. Or a likeness of Joseph and an honor that he was buried as a pharaoh. So anyway, so if you had been Joseph, how would you have revealed your identity to your brothers? A legion of guards? Come on, we've all had somebody in our life that's done us dirty.
Would you try to get even?
That'd be the temptation, wouldn't it?
Didn't let him off easy.
Now he kind of messed with them a little bit there for a while.
That sounds like something I might have done. If I-
The kind of, what is that? sarcastic way of
Get a
getting,
little dig in there and.
but he's still careful. I mean, and he basically says, God sent me ahead of you to save your lives and to protect his people. What else? How else would you maybe think you would do this?
Had 3 brothers.
Huh?
I had 3 brothers.
Okay.
I probably would have jerked him around longer than Joseph.
Kendra?
I don't know if I would have been that gracious, you know, if I remember doing it. My thing is, I just maybe ignore. Even when Pharaoh told him, this is at your disposal, they can come and live. And if that was given to me after someone's thrown me in a pit, I was like, nah, they can go on back home and starve. That is just, you know.
And that's human nature.
Yeah, it's your nature. But he let them live there, and that's so gracious to me. Told them to come and they can live in Goshen.
I have reminded 3 people this week. Forgiveness does not mean bringing someone back into your circle of friendship, circle of trust, whatever you want to say,
Thank
or
you.
even family things.
Thank you.
Forgiveness means that I pray to God that they find salvation. I don't ever have to speak to them again. And so, you know, as much as we want to do somebody dirty, for our own protection, right? Wise as or gentle as a dove, wise as a serpent. So anyway, we need to consider that. Mike Terry, somebody's hand went up.
The compassion also was pointed out this morning that Joseph had started when he was in prison. When the baker and the cupbearer came in, he asked, so Genesis 40, verse 7, he asked Pharaoh's officials who were with him in confinement in his master's house, why are your faces so sad today? He had that compassion to, hey, what's up? What's wrong? You know, he could have just said, well, I guess they're going to get theirs. You know.
Well, at this point, he's head of the whole jail.
Yeah, he's sort of head of the whole
But yet
jail.
he's still showing compassion,
But
Terry.
he's showing that compassion.
Yeah.
Another interesting thing that I heard today. Yeah. Pretty neat.
Terry?
The entire society that I've ever been around has always felt that if you forgive someone, you have to bring them back into the fold, like Father did the prodigal son, and so many other examples they'll pick out of there. My understanding of it, or the way that I have thought about it in my head so that I can move forward, is to say I no longer want them punished for what they did. Because that can eat you alive. So that's what I started thinking, and I taught it to the kids too. You don't have to let them come back in because of their background. I wanted them to not hold people accountable for what they've done as far as wanting them punished. Just move forward. Don't think any more about it if you don't have to. You don't have to go and kiss and make up. You just need to forgive them and move forward.
Been working with a family just recently that the father just all of a sudden left them, immediately moved in with a woman, which means he'd been having an affair, all this stuff, and I keep reminding them that, you know, you, the parent, the other parent, you know, yours is not to hope that their life gets ruined. It's not even yours to understand why God would let something happen, which he didn't. That's a choice the person made, because Satan and the first lie. But I said, yours is to still be the good parent, but be kind in front of your child to that person because you want to raise them as a good person, not as a vindictive, mean, whatever. Did you have something? And then Steve.
Yeah, I have 2 thoughts. He was in charge of everything. I wondered if he had the freedom to go back at any time. I get the impression that he had to
I think so too, yeah. There's nothing that intimates that he could come and go.
I think the reason we talked about why did he treat them that way, I think he really missed them. His culture. I think he was really happy to see by the time he had aged.
Okay, I was talking about while he was still in jail. Now working for Pharaoh, he is totally free.
Oh,
We know that because he was managing all the granaries through Egypt and all of their territories. So at that point, yes, he is totally free. He's second only to Pharaoh. He's got his own place in the palace, everything.
didn't go back to
Because I think, because part of being a Christian is, God put me here and I've got a task, I'm going to do my job. Because part of being a Christian is do the very best you can at whatever God's put your hands to.
He also had a responsibility to Pharaoh who put him in that position. And so being true to God meant also being true to the person that gave him.
Yeah.
The one thing that we see, with Joseph, I think that he probably realized, he knew that he was in prison for things he had not done. Sometimes we just look at people and say, well, you're in this circumstance, you must have done something. And that's not always true.
The Job theory.
Yeah, who sins?
Steve?
Genesis 39:2 says that the Lord was with Joseph, and therefore he was a successful man, right before he's thrown back in prison. And so, if we keep our eyes focused on the Lord, it doesn't mean we're gonna have a bed of roses, but it means we'll have an avenue to continue on. And that's not always easy, but like I said, if the Lord said it about Joseph, that principle applies to each one of us today.
It's different than here. Our church in Germany, our American church in Germany, we have people from the rank of general to buck privates, as they call them, when they first joined the military. And when you walk through the door, all the rank was gone. We were brothers and sisters. And we went out to eat together, and we did stuff together, and all that. Never a mention of rank. Never. Christian doesn't matter where you're put in life.
Jeff,
The
that
very
wouldn't be
best
easy.
you can be. Huh?
That wouldn't be easy.
No, especially our new guys. They would first come in and they would just study
In the military.
Well, I've told you the story about the one that we saw each other at the PX in the parking lot. Our church was very much into, when you met somebody from church, you hugged them and kissed them on the cheek. And it's a European thing as well as the military environment. And he grabs me in there and we're both in uniform and I went, okay, I'm fine with this at church, but I cannot do this out here in public. It looks bad, from that breakdown of rank. So yeah, it's difficult. But we need to, you can be a garbage man, you can be a CEO. Be the very best one you can be because you're a child of God. Doesn't matter. All right, next question is, what do you think ran through the mind? Go ahead, Kendra.
I just have a thought about vengeance. No matter your circumstance, we all go through heavy things in life. I have. But I've never had a vengeful heart. I almost went there, but my prayer is to change the circumstance and change me to be a better person than how I felt at the moment. But never a vengeance. And I just hear from people that I work with, you talk to them, and their thing is, I just want God to come and, wilt their fingers because of what they done. That kind of thing, and that's not the attitude to have. But like you said, if you don't have a good relationship with them, that's okay, and that's how I feel. My relationship may not be good because I need to have peace, but I still wish them well.
Yeah, that's the biggest key. One of the biggest keys, takeaways from that is, you will never find peace as long as you hold hatred and bitterness in your
That's
heart.
right.
Amen.
You will be miserable. There's no getting over it. So yes, release that. You need to be better regardless of them. Yeah.
Isaiah 26:3 says, "You will keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on you, because he trusts in you." So you can have peace even when things are not good. Because some things you have to, we always want to fix things. I want to fix it, especially for moms and dads.
I've got tools.
Especially moms. We want to fix things. Sometimes you just have to say, God, you got to take care of this.
Amen,
Because
sister.
I cannot take care of it. And that's what happened when Doug drowned. And I spoke those words. I said, God, you have to take care of this because I can't. And guess what? Peace came into my soul. And I was able to deal with the things that I had to deal with. But I trusted him to take care of it. Now, didn't take care of it the way that I wanted him to, but still we're able to have peace and happiness and look forward to heaven.
But I said to me, yeah, we've talked so many times about Doug over the years, especially me and Bruce talk about it a lot, but one, get to heaven and the conversation you can have with him.
Mhm.
And then the also is the amount of enhanced, I'm trying to think of not a way to say it easily, but enhanced worship we all had when Doug would sing, and when Doug would be so excited when any of us that got up that he felt really close to would get up and he would make a lot of noise, and you'd see strangers looking at him, visitors, and it's like, this is our thing. He was alone, because he's just fine. So it didn't work out like he wanted, but obviously we all wanted Doug to be perfect after that. But he has been such an inspiration, and the care that you guys have given him has been such an inspiration. He should have, they didn't predict he would live, 10 years? Something like that on,
Yeah.
on feeding tube?
A young teenager.
It's been 40 years now.
Oh my
So,
goodness.
it's incredible.
I have something to say about that. God gave Doug amazing parents. He knew who could handle this.
Because some of us couldn't handle it.
No,
I don't know if I
But I'm
could.
just saying, I gave it over to God. I gave God, you gotta take care of this. And that's how we have to do it when we come into crisis times. I think that's what Joseph did. God, I'm your hands and feet, you take care of it. And God did. And even though he went through all these pathways of deviation that were not what he wanted to have happen, I think he gave God control of his life, and then things worked out so well.
Bruce and Karen told me about somebody that, I'm not going to say who, but somebody that doesn't like me, and I said, but they're always so nice to me. And maybe into your face, but behind your back, they don't like you because you're so close to us, because we're family. And I said, well, that's not going to change how I treat them. I'm going to treat them just like best friends, and I actually think the relationship has gotten better with them because I see them, or used to, I think they moved now, but I would see them fairly regular, and it seemed like it was getting better. Mitch and I had a rocky relationship, so did everybody else. But when I first moved back here 20 years ago, I went in the meat shop and he was there, and everyone else shook my hand. I'm so glad you were around. And he turned his back on me.
You were shy.
I walked up to him, I grabbed him by the shoulder, spun him around and hugged him. And said, I don't know what you got against me, brother, but I love you. And you need to come back to church. And he still hadn't spoken to me in 20 years, hardly, more than a word or two. I hugged him at the funeral. Not going to stop me from doing what I want to do. So we just give all that to God and say, you sorted that. Kill him with kindness and nothing else. Then I can get a little vengeance that way, I guess. All right, what ran through the mind of his brothers when he revealed himself?
Uh-oh.
Is that in Hebrew? I think it's probably the same
I think it
word.
is, yeah.
What have we done?
Guilt,
Huh?
guilt.
Oh, massive guilt. And in fact, they're terrified, it said. Why? Because they know what they did, and they think they deserve what they did to him back.
They had years to work it through their head. They
You
didn't.
wonder if they even thought about it.
Oh, well, they
I
saw their
think-
dad grieving.
Pretty sure they did.
Well, yeah.
They saw their dad grieving. It had to hit them hard.
Oh, yeah.
But they still weren't willing to tell the truth.
Keep that family secret, You're not gonna snitch, are you? That's a lot of, you trust this one not to open his big fat mouth.
You gotta wonder if Benjamin ever knew what really happened. So why was he not angry again? What did the Bible say the reason was? We're gonna have to wind up doing this lesson next week, finish it, but this is good, because we all deal with anger. We all deal with being done dirty. We all have to learn to let that go, and us move forward regardless of what was done to us. If you live in the past, pound ring the bell, please, up there if you know where. If you live in the past, you never move forward. And we've all had, I mean, we can all tell stories of horrible things that have happened in our lives. If you haven't ever had somebody do you dirty, you are sure a lucky person. Because most of us do. Most of us do. And it may not even be that they were mean to us. It can be a thing about losing family members too young. A child that nearly drowned or did drown. You know, being fostered, being, you know, your parents taken away from you as a child. That was the most hurtful thing to me, is when we had to take children into our home that were taken away from their parents. And we just always tried to make them feel at home. But even a newborn, it was amazing to me. I took a baby from the hospital home with me. And that child still grieved his mother.
They don't
And
smell like their mom.
the time or two that he saw,
9 months.
he wanted her back. And she could care less at that point. She moved on. Drugs were much more important than a baby.
Of course.
You know? And that's just heartbreaking. It is. So we've all had these things happen in our lives. And yours, if you put it on the scale, we all like to say mine's a whole lot heavier than yours was. The reality is, yours is yours. And it's just as heavy for you as it is for anybody else.
That's right.
And if you've never had anything, then I really, and as I said, you're lucky, but I really think that's not good. I really think then you need to question, why has God not trusted me to handle something bigger? And maybe you need to take a step forward in your spiritual life and say, I can handle more, God. You know, it's not that we want it. It's just a thought. Just a thought. That'll keep you up tonight.
What's that one scripture that says there is a brother who was born for adversity?
It's in the New Testament, the brother born for adversity. I don't remember the.
I think it's actually in Psalms or Proverbs.
Oh, is it?
Sounds like a coffee.
Somebody look it up. Somebody got their phone out,
Or a lamentation.
and then we'll get it up. Nah, Lamentations is all happening.
Oh, certainly is.
Oh, wait a minute, that's a Hebrew word for sad, isn't it?
Proverbs 17:17.
We will, you know, we didn't even get through the first group of questions. We will pick this up next week. That's okay, I don't mind. A lot of the weeks I just said we'll skip the very end of it because we covered it. This week, this has been pretty good, and we'll keep going with this because we're not on timeline. So anyway, thank you. We'll start here next week. If I can find this.
All right, we're gonna go to the car.
I know who it is. You have a day off, how's your day off?
I went observe the classroom because there's a whole lot happening and whatever.
The what classroom?
Their classroom.
Oh, okay. Or at the Y?
Yes, I've never requested a meeting.
Good.
Got that one again.
Somebody sidestep me about it one day.
Xerxes. No.
Oh, they both went their separate ways.
They're leaving.
Here, I got some.
Thank you.
Kayla, she's leaving.
Now we
You're
can.
not gonna get very far. Yes. Agree? Thank you. I said no.
Brother Sidney, you got a closing prayer.
I want to hear this. Whether I take it now and put it back, or I
That
take
is
it in the car. Doesn't matter, so I get it. Yeah.
Is that the candy bag?
Yeah. Temptation.
Oh, I hear you, it would tempt me.
Don't you want to